Okay, welcome. So I want to go back into, now that I think we have a foundation for prayer, I want to go back into some of the core terms and see how we can utilize them best. So go to page 2. Go to page 2, the top of the page, where it says, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. You sustain the living with loving kindness. Mechakel Chayim, top of page 2. Right? Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. Right? So we want to own the key terms, right? When we talk about Chayim, how are you? You know what? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just take one and just maybe leave them there. We'll give out the others. Thank you. Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. Right? When we say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Mechakel, we're on page 2, a few lines from the top. Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. What does that mean, to be Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed? It says you sustain the living with loving kindness. What does that mean, and why do I want to be repeating that every day, a few times a day? Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. The chakel means to dole out. You dole out. So what does that mean for me? How does it impact my life if I repeat that a few times a day? You with me? First sentence, you sustain the living with loving kindness. The word sustain is not a great word. The chakel means to distribute. It's a more exact interpretation, is to distribute. You distribute life with kindness. So, we know that every time we see the word Chaim referenced in either the Chumash or the rabbis, it means life in this world and the world to come. Very important. When we say things like Ubacharta b'Chaim, choose life, things like that, we're talking about life in this world and life in the world to come. So, how are you? So we're talking about life in this world and the world to come. So when we talk about the Chakel Chayim, God is constantly doling out life. So what does that mean? Why am I saying it? If we know that it means, how are you? If we know that it means life in this world and the world to come, tell me what it means to be Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed. What would you say? So there's two perspectives about life. We're on the top of page 2. There's two perspectives about life. One perspective about life is that it goes until it ends. That it goes until it ends. That a baby is born, and with God's help, a baby grows and becomes an adult and so on. And that continues until it doesn't. That's a certain perspective about life. It's very much a Western perspective. Nothing wrong with it. But the Torah perspective is very different. The Torah perspective is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constantly flicking the life switch back to on. In other words, it's like a timer. And the timer, you know how a timer, it sort of tries to go back to 0. So when we say Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, we're saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu is flicking it back on, like that, constantly. Now, what does that mean in terms of my life? How does that change my life? If person A feels, nothing wrong with this perspective, that God gives life, life begins until it ends, right? Fine. But person B understands Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, God is constantly flicking the light switch back to on. What's the difference? What's the difference on a Thursday morning? What would you say?
He's always involved.
Huh? He's always involved. Excellent. And? He's always involved. And? What else? Tell me, how is your day different? How would your day be different if you had the perspective that the life switch is constantly being flicked back on, as opposed to
You always have a chance.
you always have a chance. He's always involved more than that. What else? You appreciate it. You're going to live your life differently. If I look at my own life and the life of the people around me, and I appreciate that it's not a given. Life's not a given. It's not a given that we wake up in the morning. It's not a given. It's a gift. And it's nice, and it's flowery, and it's everything. But it's more than that. It's very practical. Because when I understand that my life is the life switch is constantly needs to be flicked back to on, because that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu set it up, I greet opportunities differently. I welcome people differently. I engage my children differently. Everything is different. Because I understand that it's not happening. It's not just on. It's not just going. And in fact, we've become so comfortable. Thank God. We've become so comfortable with so many resources that our sensitivity and our awareness is blunted. And because of that, we don't value things the way we should. I didn't value this person until X. What are you talking about? How? How'd that happen? And you know why it happened? Because I assumed that they would be there just like they've always been there. So, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed is a powerful, important phrase that gives me the ability to be much happier, because appreciation yields happiness. Our rabbis make a very interesting formula. They say, appreciate, thank, be blessed. I want you to own this. When I appreciate something and I thank Borei Olam for it, it begets more beracha. Appreciation begets beracha. It's a very important prospect to have. Appreciation begets beracha. So to the extent that person A, need another one? You need one? Yeah? Okay. Person A, to the extent that person A says, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed, meaning you dole out life with kindness, very nice, nothing wrong with that. But person B, who looks at it in a more drilled down sense and understands that Mechakel Chaim is present tense. It's this minute. It's not past tense. Everything that the Amidah brings, it's bringing in present tense, which means everything changes. Mechayem metim b'rachamim rabim. What does that mean? Mechayem metim b'rachamim rabim. Remember, mechayeh is talking about this world and the eternal world. Mechayem metim, you bring back the dead, b'rachamim rabim. What does that mean? If I'm talking present tense, this minute, my life, make my day different, what does it mean? What is a met? What is a met, God forbid? Dead person, right? Okay. We say, ani donmeh kemet. Lo alenu, a person who is illiquid financially, a person who is struggling financially, is deemed like a met. What? Wow. That's a massive statement. There's a lot of halachic implications to it, but for our purposes, when we say ani domeh the met, that a poor person, that an illiquid person is like a dead person, it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will move a person into that state and bring them back out. Mechayem metim. God will move a person into that state and bring that back out. Yeah? So there's a deliberate effort. There's a deliberate action. Welcome back. There's a deliberate action by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a deliberate action by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to put a person in a state of limit, constriction, and bring him back out. Now, again, tell me the difference between someone who says, Mechayem metim, b'rachamim rabim. Someone who says God brings back the dead, someone who says that, true, ultimately he will bring back the dead. Or when we understand it, that dead halachically simply could be a person who's going through a tough financial time. What's the difference? There's a massive difference here as well. The difference is that I understand that the financial restrictions are probably God done. God did this to me. Why? To punish me? No. We're not talking about punishment here. We're not talking about reward and punishment. We're talking about a state of being. So if we say that mechayim metim, that would imply that God put the person in the difficult position and God is constantly taking him out. God is constantly putting him in. God is constantly taking him out. What's the upshot of that?
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance, but more than that. Yeah.
God is still with them.
Huh?
God is still with you.
God is still with you. More than that. We have a couple of formulas, very important formula in life, right? We hold that the effort, right, the melacha yields the perot. You reap what you sow, right? I plant seeds, I work hard, I do it the right way, right? I will reap the benefit of that, right? That's the standard model in this world, right? You work hard, you do it the right way, you will get the compensation for it, right? But then there's an alta method, which says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu stands on top of this and sprinkles pixie dust, so to speak. God will sprinkle pixie dust, which could mean, or we'll call it beracha, which could mean that I put in X amount of hours, and the X amount of hours should have yielded $100, and the X amount of hours yields $500. Now, if the X amount of hours yields $500, it might be a good thing or not, but it's not the result of my effort. The same thing is true the other way. A person could work, and what he did should have yielded, or she, $100, and what he did yielded $50, right? So what would that mean? That the person is in a state of financial constriction, right? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu did that. 1 second, is the person being punished? Absolutely not. Is the person being built? Absolutely yes. So, when people go through a difficult time financially, they can run in all kinds of directions, emotionally, mentally, practically. But what's happening most of the time, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is standing above. He's looking at the formula. Your efforts, you put in 100 hours, should have yielded $100,000. I'm only going to let it yield $25,000, which is going to make life difficult for you. In fact, it might put you temporarily in the category of a halachic dead person because you're illiquid. And the reason I'm doing that has nothing to do with reward or punishment. It has everything to do with your life and where you're going. Because I know, God opines, that you are capable of infinitely more. You're capable of more. You have talents that you haven't discovered or acted on. You have talents you haven't discovered or acted on. You have interests you haven't built. You have massive portions of you that is still unrealized. You know what God says? If I let the 100 hours yield $100,000, you would be satisfied with you and you wouldn't be doing anything else. So we have to understand something very, very important. And the Amidah comes to stress this over and over. There is very little reward and punishment in this world. There is very little. Reward and punishment is overwhelmingly reserved for the eternal world. What there is in this world is a very sensitive, very high-level relationship with God, like it would be with a father or a teacher, much greater, of course, where God is saying, you have a lot more in you. And mechalkel chayim b'chesed, you give us the ability to draw on those things. But you're going to bring us down. You're going to put us in a difficult place, not because we did anything wrong, because we didn't do enough things right, because there's parts of me that I haven't yet expressed. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, sorry. On the other hand, if someone is doing their thing, they put in the 100 hours, so to speak, which would have yielded $100,000, and it yields $200,000. Okay, very good. Or it yields the same $100,000, but the person is in a different place emotionally, right? In a different place, much happier place. So, when we say these lines, what we're saying is as follows: that HaKadosh Baruch Hu first and foremost is constantly flicking the light switch back to on. It's not a given. God doesn't give you on when the baby is born and off after 120 years. It's not true. And if someone appreciates that God is constantly doing this all day long, every couple of seconds, everything changes. You could do that, you could go home, and your life is totally different. And it's a beautiful thing. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me enough, constant, flicking the light switch back, yeah.
I don't know if it's simplistic, but isn't it said that, like, when you sleep, your soul sort of goes off and whatever? So isn't it like, I don't know, I always understood it to mean that in the morning, Hashem gives you back your soul. So, like,
right.
Is that the same kind of
It's a similar thing. It's a similar thing. Yeah, we're gonna speak about that more in depth, and actually maybe we'll get to it today. It's a similar thing, but on top of that, I want you to hold with this: on, off, on, off, on, off.
challenges of your life? You're just always striving to be more.
You have to be. Why? Because it's a better place. It's a happier place. That's why. Okay? So God is flicking my light switch back to on constantly. And God is mechayem metim b'rahamim rabim, i.e., God brought me to this place, and God's taking me out of this place. Why? Because there's a greater me that can be realized. Yeah? So every time when I say these things, I'm doing two core things. I'm reminding myself how fragile and therefore how fantastic life is, because God keeps giving it back to me, number one. Number two, I'm reminding myself in the context of myself, my spouse, my children, I'm reminding myself of something critically important, and that is to look at what their life experiences are with a much broader mind. It's very rarely about reward and punishment. It's overwhelmingly about unrealized me. The infinite me hasn't been brought out. There's an infinite me. It needs to show itself. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take the pixie dust and he'll give a disproportionate success to something unearned, or he'll give failure or challenge to something overly worked for, because he wants you to be thinking. He wants you to be pivoting. He wants you to be moving. Good? Okay, great.
When you said previously, because you didn't do right.
No, I didn't say you didn't do right.
You did?
I said you didn't do right?
I want to say there's a difference between doing right or not doing enough.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Is it the same thing, say I didn't do right or I didn't do enough?
You didn't do enough.
Because I can do right, but not enough.
And we're talking about, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, we're talking about enough.
Okay.
Talking about enough. And enough doesn't mean I drive myself crazy. Enough means that I look at the resources that are around me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the resources. We're not looking at them. I look at the resources around me and I use them to become more, to build more. I use them. The resources are always there. So there's two very different ways to live. If I don't live with the perspective that the light switch is being flicked constantly back to on, I take a lot of things for granted. I become dull and I become absent in a lot of ways. I'm simply absent. I'm simply taking for granted. I call it absent. I'm absent. I'm absent from the moment. I'm absent from the preciousness of the moment. We go, for example, to Israel for a brief period of time, and we chasing every single minute. We're capturing every experience, every memory, because we know it's a limited experience. But what about Thursday? Thursday 2025, isn't that a limited experience? If my perspective was that the life switch is being constantly flicked back to on, I would live it differently, because it is a limited experience. And no less important, when we get squeezed, we have to know that it's not because of a problem, of a punishment. It's almost never because of that. It's overwhelming because we got more. We can do more, right? What is it? America's Got Talent. What is it called? Right? We have massive talent, each of us, right? That we haven't yet used. Okay? Good. Somech noflim v'nofech cholim. What does that mean? Somech noflim. What is to be somech and nofel? What does that mean? Somech noflim. Huh? I support the one who has fallen. Excellent. Very important. Al pi halacha, according to Jewish law, right? One person invests 2 hours to help a person who's falling, in the process of falling, and one person invests 10 hours to help the person who's already fallen down. Which person gets more credit? The first one. 1 second. The first one only put in 2 chesed hours. The second one put in 10. Why is the first one getting more credit? It's preventative. Because we hold, and there's a little bit of a Kabbalistic bend on this, we hold that when a person is hurt emotionally, they never fully heal. There's little shards of glass, so to speak. There's broken pieces that don't always come, we don't come back 100%. So therefore, we have the command, when we see a person beginning to stumble, rush in then. Rush in then. And wait a minute, if your preventative efforts take an hour of your time and save that person from a greater emotional shattering, you did massively good work, much better work than if you pick the person up and you commit 10 hours, so to speak, after they're down and broken. So what are we saying here? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is somech noflim. What does that mean? He's constantly supporting those who fell. Now what if I feel like I've fallen, and I read this, and I know what I'm reading? Wouldn't my life be different? I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is holding me. I know He's holding me. And you know what? Even though I didn't think about it, now that I know that my life switches like this, so I'm much more appreciative. Now that I know that my difficulties are not about reward or punishment, but about greater growth, now that I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is supporting me, it means I have what I need to get back up. I have it. Very often a person forgets that he or she has it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu somech noflim. We're not samach. It's not past tense. It's somech. It's right now, this minute. 1 second. Let me think about it some more. Let me discuss it further. Let me open up my mind. Yeah? So that's what the present tense descriptions tell us. Rofeh cholim, what does that mean? Heals the sick. Rofeh cholim, which means what? Again, present tense, perpetual, ongoing. Umatir asurim. This references what we said before. What does the hatir mean? The hatir means to lessen the bind, to lessen the constriction, to lessen when somebody is being squeezed emotionally, physically. Matir asurim. And when does God do it? He didn't do it yesterday, or when I was born, or at the start of Rosh Hashanah, or something like that. He did it right now, this minute. Now, again, a person who understands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is matir asurim versus a person who doesn't, what's the difference in their life? What would you say? Huh?
Call out at any minute.
You could crawl out at any minute.
Call it part of your relationship.
I could call out at any minute. Got you, excellent point. I could call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, aren't you the matir asurim? Let's go. Call out at any minute. That's right. Go for it. Shout it. I want it. I can have it. You promised it to me. Right? You promised it to me. Good. Mekayem emunato d'shnei afad. This is a huge point. What does that mean? Mekayem emunato d'shnei afad. In the global sense and in the local sense. You fulfill your loyalty. The translation here is faithfulness. That's not correct. You fulfill your loyalty to those who sleep in the ground, which means in grand terms, right? In grand terms, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ultimately bring the bodies back out of the ground, recompile them, rebuild them, and give them back in a Shema, right? But what does it mean today, on Thursday? What does it mean? Mekayem emunato d'shnei afad. What does that mean? What is emunah? We said emunah is loyalty. You keep your promise, right? You keep your loyalty to me. What does that mean? What does that mean? You keep your loyalty to me. Why is my life different when I read that if I know it?
Everything that you've learned up to now, but Hashem is there. You keep it there. It's there. It's always there for me. And you get reminded of it. And the proof is when you see the trees go from spring to winter and winter to spring, it's a constant reminder that Hashem is there and he's not leaving you, and everything that you're reading until everything that we're absorbing in your class till now, it's a promise from Hashem. It's a promise, it's a commitment, it's minute to minute, it's second to second. It never sleeps, right? It never sleeps, right? Excellent. So to the extent that we can live this way, everything changes. The challenges that seem so complex and so insurmountable, they're not. Because I know the resources have been put in front of me. I didn't access them. So let me be more clever. Let me take a walk and think. Let me speak to a dear friend, a Yedid Nefesh, right? A partner in life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives everybody, people like that, to access and say, I can't figure it out, but you can. And by the way, this person is not a spouse, rarely a spouse. The person is a Yedid Nefesh, is a soulmate, not a love mate. The love mate often can't explain these things because she is too involved emotionally. But the soulmate can. The soulmate is a dear friend, and they may be a friend that you access once every 10 years. But they know you, they're bright, they're not judgmental, and these are the people we seek out when we have these kind of questions and challenges. So, Mekayem emunato d'shnei afad means you will ultimately show your loyalty to those who are gone and bring them back, but it also means you are absolutely loyal to me. Mi chamocha bal gevurot. What does that mean? There's no one like you. The master of restraint. What does it help us to say now, the master of restraint? Why wouldn't we say the master of loving kindness? Why do we say the master of restraint? What do you think?
Because he's not punishing you for what you're doing, he's helping you get over it.
Exactly. It's all about that. It's all about restraint. So again, it goes back to the point of, I'm not getting punished. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a failed person. I'm not. How many marriages would be in an altogether different place if people didn't point a finger at themselves and say, I'm a failure? I can just count in my mind the people I've spoken to over the years where what debilitates the marriage? Someone's crisis of self. That's what debilitates the marriage. So what happens? The person has a crisis of self. Now the person's resilience in his career or hers drops. And so when the resilience drops, the finances drop. So that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So all this kind of stuff goes on and on and on. We undermine ourselves with a lack of that resolve that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is promising us and handing us, we don't take it. We leave it on the shelf. We leave it on the shelf. So this paragraph alone is a life-changing paragraph. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, I know what you're doing to me is not a punishment, because you don't do that. You're pushing me, you're encouraging me like a good teacher would. Umi domeh lach melech memit umchayeh umatzmiach yeshuah. These might be the most important words ever. What does it mean? Mi domeh lach, who is like you? Melech memit umchayeh umatzmiach yeshuah. The God who takes life, gives it back, and sprouts forth salvation, sprouts forth remarkable change. What does this mean? What does it mean?
There's always a chance.
Huh?
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance, and the chance, when does it come? It can come instantly, in a second. I put in a small effort. I reclaim a limited sense of self, and boom, I did it. That's all I have to do. You know, the average overnight success in America takes 15 years, right? The average overnight success takes 15 years. That's what research shows, and which is interesting. Different conversation, but over here, the average success is split second. Melech memit umchayeh. Remember, when God kills, so to speak, we're not talking about death here. We're talking about constriction that comes from love. Again, like a parent should do, like a teacher should do. I should take my best performing child and break his head. I should take my best performing student and mark his test lower than he deserves, I say. Because if he's got the 90, but he can get a 99, unacceptable for him. Right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu does exactly the same thing. Most of what we experience is just that push, that squeeze. Come on, man, you can do more. And what we're reminding ourselves 2-3 times a day is that if I understand life this way, and I grab life this way, it happens in a minute. We say Yeshuat Hashem keheref ayin. What does that mean? Yeshuat Hashem, yeah?
The Savior of Hashem is like
The flick of an eye, right? Keheref ayin, like the opening and closing of an eye, right?
But here, when Yirmiyahu says who causes death and gives life, it's a different thing than the switch.
Right, yes, it's relative to the memit. Very good. It's relative to the memit. Memit is where he brings a person down, financially and otherwise, and mechayeh is pops him right back up. It's different than flicking the switch. Good, excellent. The context is trials, yisurim shel ahava, we call them. Sufferings that come from love. Most of what a person experiences on this planet, in this lifetime, are suffering that come from the love of God. That's most what's going on.
It doesn't mean also here that besides God, that is absolute, nothing is absolute. There is death and life, or you can go up and down.
Say it one more time.
I mean that our journey, that it's not absolute.
It's not absolute.
I mean, we can be down, we go up, we can do. The only thing that is absolute is.
No, the up and downs. The up and down is about me not striving hard enough. If you're not striving hard enough, you're going to get knocked down. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, I'll tell you what I mean. You're a great athlete. You can run the mile in 5 minutes. You're lazy. I'm going to break your head. But what do you mean? Everybody else takes 8 minutes to run the mile. Yeah, but you're a 5-minute mile guy. The Havdil. I'm going to break your head. That's the way it works. And that's what we want. We want that. We want the scrutiny. We want the challenge. I'm sorry to say it, but we want God to double down on us. And we want to feel like sometimes we can't pick our head up. We want that. Because it means God sees it in me. I tell people like this. I tell them, the most blessed people are also those who are going to have the most difficult life, right? And who are those people? God willing, we should all be those people, and we are. Who are those people? The person who's smart and sensitive. Smart and sensitive. If you're smart and sensitive, you are going to have the most difficult life, God willing, and you're going to have the greatest life. Dumb people, right? Dumb people, they don't see a lot, so they don't respond to it, right? Smart people who are insensitive see a lot but don't care about it. So my ideal student, my ideal person is someone who is smart and sensitive. And I tell my students, I tell the boys from the outset, you know what? Your life is going to be harder. Let's stand up and cheer about that. They look at you like something's funny, right? But that's the person you want to be, smart and sensitive. I see it, and I feel it, and I move on it. And what God says is, I want to remind you over and over, he says, that this world is almost exclusive of reward and punishment. It is overwhelmingly about me pushing you like a father, like a teacher, to achieve more. I'm going to beat you down, and I'm going to throw you right back up, and it's going to happen in ways that don't make any practical sense. No good?
That's scary.
Huh?
That's scary.
It's what? It's scary?
Scary.
It's phenomenal. It's so phenomenal. I'll tell you why it's phenomenal. It means life must be something with perpetual growth and massive achievement. It must be. It can't be anything less than that. It can't. It mustn't. You know, like we said, you know, if somebody, La'alenu, reached the end of his life, and you know, the angel came to him and said, you know, I'll give you another day for X. Do this mitzvah, pay me $10,000, I'll give you another day. Everybody would do it. If you had the money, of course you would do it. If you had the ability to do the mitzvah, of course you would do it, right? So we have the day. We had the day. We didn't have to extend ourselves to get it. So Rabbi Soloveitchik, alav shalom, wrote beautifully, he said, it's all about friction. So it's all about friction. Life, there has to be friction. If there's friction, it means there's growth. We define the tzaddik in our learning. Tzaddik, you know, it's translated as the righteous person. But we define the tzaddik as the person who knows his or her core strengths. That's the tzaddik. Now, the tzaddik has a much tougher job. Because if the person understands his or her core strengths, it means they're living them. And then it means that they're taking them and reaching to a frontier that they've never been in before. And you know what's going to happen, God willing? They're going to fail big time. And that's great. And that's great. That's the whole story. Put me out there expressing my strengths. God gave me these strengths. Yeah? So put me out there. Let me reach beyond myself to something that I've never done before, an area I've never been in before, and bring it on. Bring it on. And the good news is, Hashem relates to us not only as Amonai, but as Elokim, which means he demands of us, he pushes us, and if we're not out there understanding who we are and building with it, then he's going to come and say, sorry, being dormant, that doesn't work. I've said many times, sorry to repeat it for those who've heard it, there is no word in Lashon HaKodesh, I'm talking about modern Hebrew, there's no word in ancient Hebrew for retire. There's no word. And by the way, there's no word for vacation either. Why? Because if I'm doing my thing, why would I ever vacate it? If I'm living true to what I want, reaching and building, I would never vacate that effort. Why? Why would you ever? Right? Good. Ne'eman ata lachayot metim. What does that mean? Ne'eman ata lachayot metim. You are loyal. Ne'eman means loyal. Again, emunah does not mean belief or faith. It means loyalty. Ne'eman ata lachayot metim. You are loyal to bring back the dead. Who are we talking about? Us. When he breaks us, when he steps on us, God willing, he's loyal to bring us back, which means this is just affirming, it's summarizing the bracha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is constantly in the game. Baruch atah Hashem, mechayeh hametim, blessed are you God, who's constantly, perpetually bringing people down and pulling them back up, and bringing them down and pulling them back up. Questions, thoughts? Yeah.
So let's say you have a very big challenge in your life and you like overcome it or whatever, you're very happy or whatever. Then the next day something terrible happens, like another challenge.
Great.
So is it because like you got cocky or like you're saying, okay?
No, I don't know if you got cocky. It means that because you overcame this one and you became more and your neshama became greater expressed, now God's going to bring on the next one. It's all about that. It's fabulously about that. How could it be about anything less than that, right? Who wants to be able to say, I was given life for 24 hours, and you know what? I don't remember it. I challenged my students once. I said, tell me something exceptional that you've done in the last 30 days. That a hard question? God flicked the switch back on, right? And gave you 30 days of life. 30 days. It's breathtaking in its scope and its value, right? Tell me, what did you do? What outstanding in your mind can you say, I achieved, I stretched, I reached, I built in the last 30 days? What do you got? You don't got? We have to do some work here. Right? That's what we're talking about here. And if you don't got, and God loves you, and God knows you got the goods, he's going to come down all over you. God willing. Because the last thing we want is an apathetic God, an apathetic parent, an apathetic teacher. That's the last thing we want. It's the last thing we want. Apathy is the biggest debilitator. There's nothing worse. And we plead with God not to be apathetic to us. Yeah.
Rabbi, when reading what you're saying now, it makes me think, and I'm sorry if it's maybe sensitive. But
say it a little louder, I can't hear.
In that context, what comes to my mind, and I'm sorry if it's sensitive, it's how, when I look at parents that have a challenged child.
A what child?
They have a child with needs.
Right.
And I look at it, I say, this person must be the greatest person that they have every day. They are, they don't vacate ever.
Right.
It makes me think
That's exactly what we're saying.
That is not a punishment.
It's not. Never is. Never is. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity. Same way, if one of your children is under-realized, are you going to walk away and say, okay, next? No. You're going to do everything you can to bring out that person's great possibilities and strength. And your spouse, right? What is our job with our spouse? What's the primary job of someone who loves his spouse? Or what's the primary job? The primary job is to be a student of the other person and then be Ezer Kenegdo. Ezer Kenegdo is not a trivialized statement. Ezer Kenegdo means I'm the biggest helpmate my spouse could ever get. And you know what? Ain't nobody going to challenge him like me. Ezer, partner, Kenegdo, against him. You know why? Because I'm going to push him harder than anybody else. You know why? Because I committed my life to this person. I committed my life to them. And there's nothing more important to me and to them and to our children than to them to be constantly self-realizing. Renaissance people, we're supposed to be Renaissance people. Why would there be such a massive reverence for older people in Jewish law? Why? Do what the Americans do. Pack them away in some horrific place, and God forbid them like that. No, an older person walks into a room that you don't know, that you never met, you better stand up. What are you talking about? I don't know the guy. Could be a bum. Might be, but chances are he's not. And we have a reverence for age because we assume that age came with growth. We assume that age came with adventure and building. And that's what we're talking about here. Let's go another few minutes. Good? Good? Questions, thoughts? We're okay?
I just think that it's also comforting to know that the way Hashem causes in this sentence, he causes the death and the salvation is the same way, what you're saying. He's the cause.
He's the cause.
Wealth and poverty.
Yeah.
And all of those things in between.
Yeah.
That's also the comforting part of the...
Excellent. That is comforting. That's right. It's not arbitrary. It's not arbitrary, and it's not because I'm a bad guy. It's not a punishment.
Saying that he's the one who causes it.
That's right. He causes it. And why does he cause it? Like any loving parent or any loving educator? And he causes it because, come on, there's more here. You know, we have it built fundamentally into the system. When Avram, right, when he fulfills his vast possibility, somehow, remarkably, in his life, he fulfilled it all. HaKadosh Baruch Hu increases him. Avraham makes him more, gives him, okay, wait a minute, he did it. He fulfilled everything his neshama was tooled to do. Move on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no way. You fulfilled everything? Let's raise the bar and bring you more. Sarai, Sarah, same thing. Great. So that's what we're talking about here. When we think we're getting, punished, 99% of the time, we're not. We're being loved with tough love. Let's go. That's the way it is. Yeah? When we think we're broken, we're not broken. We're being poised. We're being positioned to grow much greater. This is life. We don't want it any differently. Yeah?
That's hard.
It's hard. God willing, it's hard. God willing, it's hard.
It's amazing, but someone that cannot pay the bills and is having a marriage problem and the children,
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
It's hard.
That's a gift, is not a punishment.
That's right, it's hard. And a person could say, God's punishing me, or he could say, I'm a failure, or that kind of stuff, God forbid. Or it could say, wait a minute, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doubling down on me right now, to your example, personally and financially. God is doubling down. That means there's a great horizon for me that I didn't envision yet. I need to break through and get there. That's the perspective. And when you say these words in the morning, hopefully you can reclaim that perspective.
Hashem has all the answers.
No, more than that. It's true, you're right, but I would say I have all the answers. Do I have all the answers? I don't have all the answers. But I have the capacity to find, to discover all the answers. Not all, just about all. You hear that thing? I want to be very clear on this. You're making a very important point. To say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has all the answers, you're 100% right. But if I say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me the capacity to reveal the overwhelming majority of all the answers, that's even the bigger point.
I was referring to what she was saying, not to be angry or bitter that this is happening to you, and to just put your trust in Hashem that He has a plan. And you
More
have
than
to
that.
effort.
You're right, but more than that. I want to put myself in my own head for me to discover the plan. In other words, if I put myself in God's arms, which is true, it's true what you're saying, I sort of surrender to what's going on.
I think it's a combination.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Experience, that's what I feel.
It's a combination, okay?
If you trust Hashem and you put the effort,
Good, okay. But it's not a blind trust.
No.
It's a trust that demands of me.
Effort.
Excellent. Okay, that works.
If I say God has all the answers, I am diminishing God. But if I understand that God is sending me those challenges for me to use my potential, I think I look at God as a greater God than the first.
Excellent, excellent. That's right. That's right. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. Good. Good. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to.
When he's saying, God's going to change it and it's going to get better, like somebody comes to you with a very difficult thing. It's very hard for them to hear that something better is going to come out of it. They're going through.
I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to make it even harder for when they come to you. Not only, rather than saying something better is going to come out of it, say you can make something better out of it. When you say something better is going to come out of it and you say that's hard for a person to hear, you're right. So I'm telling you, make it even harder for them to hear, right? Which is, you know what? You can fix this. Of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is shouting at you and saying, come on. You have the capacity, use it. You have the capacity. Pray and plead. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'yisa'u. When Bnei Israel is standing at the edge of the Reed Sea, right? And they're screaming and they're pleading with God, and Moshe Rabbeinu turns to God and he says, God, help us. God tells him, Lama titz'aku elai. What are you praying for? What are you screaming now for? Do something. And the do something is where it takes the greatest strength, the greatest resolve, the greatest self-love, the greatest belief in God. Do something. You do something. God didn't tell Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, it's cool. I hear everybody screaming and crying. I'm going to split the sea, everything in Blia, okay? He says, let the people move. Once the people move, I will move. Nachshon jumps in the water splits. Not before. And that's what we're talking about, as hard as it is. Huh?
Active, not passive.
Active, not passive. Perpetually active. So, let's wrap up. The point of the prayers is to affirm my life, is to empower my life, is to provide insight to me. Every time I pray, I should become more insightful. I should become more aware. I should become more self-focused and self-confident and self-energized. And these words are meant to say, when I'm shaken, when the basis is shaken, it's not punishment. It's not failure. It's a confrontation with the greater possibility. And if I say this every day and I live it, it changes everything. And now if I use this as a base, we'll continue with God's help through the other tefillot, tefillot within the Amidah. If I say this as a base, then everything else really lines up beautifully. When I ask God for more knowledge, when I ask God for to remove any constraints, when I ask God for financial well-being, when I ask God to categorize me with certain types of people, it all makes sense because I'm up and I'm doing, and I'm charging, and I'm challenging. So now it all makes sense. But if I was passive, then what am I asking for all these things for? I'm not doing anything anyway. But if I'm moving and I'm building, I need all of that support. Great. Okay. Now we should see the Nechmat Sion, Bezat Hashem. Everybody should have a fast that brings with it growth and awareness and sensitivity. Thank you for coming.